Welcome to another East Trade Winds presentation with Megan Dougherty presenting.
Something that we've been looking at, trying to solve a particular problem that comes up in podcasting from time to time. And that's podcasting. When you do a full podcast, maybe it's long solo episodes, maybe it's interviews, you get a lot of great things out of that. You get networking, you get content, you get search, you get strategy, but it's not great for fast traction and it's not great for big reach. So that's something that we are kind of trying to explore different options to make a little bit better for business owners as they are creating shows. So let me tell you a little bit about myself so you know kind of why I'm thinking about this kind of thing. My name is Megan Dougherty. I'm the principal at One Stone Creative, which is a podcast production agency that specializes in podcasting for small businesses. Do audio, video shows, ongoing, and short-form limited releases. So I've been doing this since 2017, as I mentioned, and I'm the publisher of the State of Business Podcasting Report, which is a deep dive into the top 100 podcasts and what they're doing from a strategic standpoint that we've been releasing every year since 2020. I'm also the host of the Business Podcast Spotlight and very soon a new show, which I'll be telling you about. And I'm the author of Podcasting for Business, How to Make a Show That Creates a Bottom Line Difference for Your Company. If you find my links in the chat, you can download a free copy of that at podcastingforbusiness.com. So let's talk a little bit about the theory of podcasting first, if you'll forgive me, because I'm a giant nerd about podcasting as well as being lazy about actually doing work. So often companies start podcasts because they're very popular. I know Adam and Jojo, you're in media, podcasting is very, very big. Video podcasting is very, very big. And it seems like everybody's got one, so that if you don't have one, you're kind of getting left out of the swim. When these projects start, everyone involved is really, really excited. It's new, it's great, you've got great guests, you're getting great feedback. Oh, the music sounds so good. Releasing it, seeing yourself on Spotify, it's awesome. And then some weeks go by and some time go by, and the amount of work doesn't really change that much, but the results are not keeping aligned with it. The outcomes from podcasting are really, really difficult to measure. And because of that, these are projects that kind of before anything else on the list or on the roster are going to fizzle out and die just because it's hard to see what impact they're actually making. And this has kind of been the focus of my career for the last couple of years. Because when you get right down to it, there is a formula for profitable podcasting and making it something that's really, really effective. It's just not the same for every business. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to a concept that we've been working with for a little while called podcast value math. And this represents the biggest change I want you to make in your own mind mentally about podcasting. A podcast is not a thing that exists on its own, at least not for a business, with objective rules or criteria for success or failure. A podcast is a tool that a business owner can design to do specific things. And you figure out what those specific things are and how to optimize for them by using podcast value math. This is where you look at what you value. What is it that you actually want a podcast to do for you? Do you want it to connect you with people? Do you want it to grow your reach? Do you want it to nurture leads? Do you want it to establish your thought leadership? Do you want it to build you SEO? Then what about the podcast creates that value? What are the elements of the podcast? Is it the people that you talk to? Is it the way that you distribute it? Is it how you have it on your website? Is it the notes that go along with it? Taking what you value, adding it to taking what you value, optimizing it to create more of that value with the elements of the show that contribute to it, that equals a profitable podcast. And that profit can look a lot of different ways. Maybe it's going to be in the networking. Maybe it's going to be in sales. Maybe it's going to be in labor cost savings. But that's the way you break down a podcast. And that's how you create a podcasting strategy that's going to be really valuable for you and for your business. Over the years that we've been doing this, we've developed a methodology kind of to apply this thinking, to apply this. A podcast is a tool, not a thing that has value in and of itself. It's called the Business Podcast Blueprints, and there's 5 high-level goals that podcasts are really, really good at helping achieve. One is relationship building. These are shows that are designed to connect you with people that you need to grow your business. Then there's audience engagement, and these are shows that nurture an audience who, by some means or other, are already aware of you. Think about like lead nurturing or sales enablement. And then you've got thought leadership, and these are shows that establish you and your brand as an authority. Conversion shows change listeners from one kind of relationship with you to another kind, maybe usually through some kind of paywalled or email-gated content. And then there's content shows. You are completely allowed to have a podcast just to create content that you can use in other areas of your business. It's a perfectly valid reason to podcast, and you don't have to have another one. So this is the methodology that's explained in my book, which, as I mentioned, you can get a copy of if you'd like to explore more. But the reason this kind of thinking works is because it starts with the business goals, not anything about a podcast in particular. The blueprint is the main goal for the show. It's the most important thing that it does for your business, and it becomes a decision-making filter that you use to make all of the other decisions about your show. And doing that, choosing what is the most important thing it does, is the most important first step for profitable podcasting for all kinds of business owners who have all different kinds of goals. But sometimes, and now we're getting into the new strategy I wanted to talk about, is that your goals and what your business needs doesn't require a whole traditional podcast to fulfill them. And don't mistake me, I love traditional podcasts. Not only are they my bread and butter, they're one of my favorite media to consume and to listen to. I really, really love them. They are great at doing a lot of things. They build relationships, they shorten sales cycles, they connect people with their communities, and they do so much more than that as well. But sometimes you can get a lot of the benefits of podcasting without doing the same work that you'd have to do if you had a traditional ongoing, it lasts forever podcast. We've seen that a lot over the last couple of years as we've started to focus on short form podcasting. That is to say, podcasting with an end date, 6, 10, 12 episodes rather than a show that releases every Tuesday for the rest of time. For a lot of businesses, that's all the podcast they need. It does the job, and so they don't have to invest any more time, energy, and money in it after that. And we were wondering, could the same thing be done with length of podcast rather than number of episodes? And that's been what we've been thinking about for the last little year. You don't need to record for an hour every single week and release something every single week to be consistent and to do important things in your business, like share your expertise, enhance your SEO, or fill your content calendar. You can go a long way with just a tiny bit of content that you record all at once in a batch. And so this is what we're calling a micropod, specifically what we were solving for when we tried to develop this new way of podcasting. So a micropod is a way to get maximum audience content and thought leadership outcomes for a minimum investment of time and energy. So this is not the podcast that you want to have if you need to build a lot of relationships. But if you want, better SEO, you want your name out there, you want traction on social platforms and in the podcast RSS lists, this is something worth considering. And the way it works is that you record a batch of episodes in one session and release at least 2 a week as a podcast and also on your social media channels. These are typically going to be video pods rather than just audio only pods. So it can be Q&A, it can be commentary, quick tips, reviews, stories. They all work really well in this format. And they can be really, really simple episodes. In fact, they have to be really, really simple episodes, unlike more traditional podcasting where you can get really complicated and really fancy. In a micropod, you're just going to have a quick hit, something that is exciting, gets people's attention right away because you've only got a couple of seconds to do that. A very, very lightning fast intro, possibly just a logo and some music really, really quick. Then the body of the content, which is going to be 1 to 3 minutes long. You could probably squeak in a little longer or go a little shorter if you needed to, but 1 to 3 minutes as a rule. And then again, a CTA or call to action that doesn't last more than 15 seconds. Bingo, bango. Easy to record, easy to produce, easy to get a whole bunch done in one sitting. And what this does is when you're able to record a whole month of content, for example, in one batch, that's going to save you a lot of planning time, a lot of production time, a lot of recording time. All you have to do is do one recording lift, one production lift, and then get it out for the next month. And you can get back to actually running your business, which presumably takes up the majority of your working time. And you can get a ton of different benefits from podcasting in this way. So specifically a micropod or having this really short form, frequent content coming out is going to get you more traction faster. So one of the hitches that comes up for a lot of companies when they start podcasting is that even if you hire amazing, totally done for you support, it's still a lot of work to figure out episodes and to do the recording and to review the edits and to promote and to get everything out there. It takes time. And that means it can be a real hitch. And so it's going to be tempting to record every other month instead of weekly or even monthly. And that means it's going to be really, really hard to ever actually see results from the podcast because the podcast industry moves very quickly. And it's simply you need to have a consistent, quick pace of content to see results. It's also really great for establishing more visibility, reach, and repurposing. Another big problem that new podcasters find is you've put all this effort into this amazing content, and why is nobody listening? Well, a lot of it is because podcast search sucks to start. But using other formats and designing something specifically to play more effectively with the algorithms and that is meant to be kind of digested in really bite-sized, for good or ill, that is content that is really popular right now. And if you're trying to use content to achieve business goals, paying attention to those trends is important. Being able to batch your content is really efficient and it saves time, it saves money, it saves labor cost, and it saves your own labor when you're doing this kind of recording because just being able to do it in bulk, to get a month's worth of, daily content, that's a really big lift. And so trying to do it all at once is going to really preserve a lot of your time for the other work that you have to do. And something that I think is really interesting, and I'd love to have some of the AI experts in the room weigh in on this, is that when you do have, especially Q&A content, story content, teaching content in this short format that's coming out in a really structured way, and it's coming out, riddled with delicious keywords, that kind of structured expertise makes it easy for you to find both from search engines and from the large language model chats that are going to be in a position to recommend you as more and more people use them to do their discovery research. To just nail the point home again, batching a lot of content in one go, especially really short form content, is going to give you a really rich and robust content calendar for a minimum of time and financial cost. So if these are benefits that you're thinking might be kind of interesting to you, Here's how you do it. Really short. I'm sure there are details that go into creating a new podcast, but this is the baseline of how you're going to do it if you'd like to give it a try. The first is choose your release schedule, whether you want to do it twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Start on the 2 end and move up towards more releases if you're new. But choose your release schedule and then create the prompts for 4 weeks worth of episodes. And your prompts might be, a story about a client success. It might be a list of a bunch of questions that people ask you regularly, or a bunch of questions that you see people talking about on social media that you know that you have a really good answer to. Create enough prompts for 4 weeks worth of episodes on whatever your release schedule is. Then you're going to record all of your episodes in a single batch. Now, some people are really good at turning on a camera and talking and looking good and feeling confident, and we hate those people. They're lovely, but most people do not have that experience recording video, especially solo. It's weird, it's awkward, it's unpleasant. Get a friend or a business partner or a colleague to record with you in the room. Trust me, it's going to make a really big difference. Then you're going to record and produce all of them, all in one go. This is something that really, really important. You do not push this off until later. You don't say, okay, I'm just going to produce one, schedule one, get it out there. No, for this strategy to work, you produce the entire month's worth of content in one go, and then you schedule the entire month's content in one go. And that means to your social platforms. I know if you're using something like GoHighLevel, it's probably got a scheduler involved that you can pop everything in there. Everyone should be its own blog post. You should have a really nice index of content, and you should be doing that work exactly once a month so that the rest of the time you can be running your business and responding to people who are engaging with your content. Once you get this into a habit, you just repeat it monthly. And that's how you would go about kind of applying the strategy to your own business and getting the maximum amount of content and the benefits that accrue therefrom from a minimum of effort. And of course, this is also something that One Stream Creative can help with you or help you with, because this is what we do. We create the prompts. We have a producer who would record live with you, do all the post-production, and host the podcast version for you to get it up into the world, and you get all of the results with a bare minimum of time and energy investment. So if you do have questions, I've probably got answers. And there's some details here about how you can connect with me.
We thank you for watching. We meet every Tuesday between 8 and 9 a.m. Eastern. There is no cost and an option to become a speaker too. Find East Trade Wins on LinkedIn.
Well,